Have you ever stopped to wonder how American architecture has evolved over the centuries? It's a fascinating journey, filled with innovation, creativity, and cultural amalgamation. From humble beginnings to towering skyscrapers, the architectural landscape of America has transformed dramatically. This evolution not only reflects the changing tastes of society but also the technological advancements that have made it possible. So how did this journey unfold? Who were the visionaries that shaped it? Dive with us into the rich and varied history of American architecture. American architecture didn't just appear overnight, it has roots deep in the past. The seeds of what we know as American architecture were sown by Native American tribes, who fashioned structures from the materials they found in their surroundings. From the cliff dwellings of the Anasazi to the longhouses of the Iroquois, these early structures showcased a deep understanding of the environment and a resourceful spirit. But this was just the beginning. With the arrival of European settlers, the architectural landscape began to change. Early colonial buildings were modest and practical, reflecting the harsh conditions of life in the New World. Yet, the settlers brought with them a taste for the architectural styles of their homelands. The English, Dutch, and Spanish all left indelible marks on the built environment. The English influence was particularly strong. Colonial houses with their steep roofs and central chimneys were reminiscent of the cottages of England. Meanwhile, Dutch settlers introduced gambrel roofs and flared eaves, while Spanish colonists brought with them the love for stucco walls and tiled roofs. These early structures, born out of necessity and influenced by European styles, laid the foundation for the development of a distinct American architectural identity. The fusion of different cultures, the adaptation to diverse landscapes, and the spirit of innovation that characterized these early days set the stage for the architectural wonders to come. As the young nation grew, so did its architectural aspirations. The young republic looked to the ancient civilizations for architectural inspiration. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? As a fresh, vibrant nation, you might expect the United States to develop an entirely new architectural style, but instead the young republic turned its eyes to the past, to the timeless elegance of the ancient world. During the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the neoclassical and Greek revival styles began to flourish in America. These styles, with their grand columns and ornate details, echoed the grandeur of ancient Rome and Greece. They symbolized the ideals of democracy, freedom, and civic virtue that the new nation held dear. Let's take a moment to appreciate some of the key buildings from this era. The United States Capitol, for instance, is a shining example of the neoclassical style. Its grand dome and stately columns are reminiscent of the Pantheon in Rome, a nod to the Republic's Roman roots. The Capitol's design, with its emphasis on symmetry and balance, embodies the ideals of order and justice that the nation's founders aspired to. Greek revival, on the other hand, celebrated the democratic ideals of ancient Greece. It's no coincidence that many of the nation's early public buildings, like courthouses and town halls, were built in this style. The Greek revival style, with its sturdy Doric columns and triangular pediments, was seen as a symbol of the people's power. But it wasn't just public buildings that were touched by these styles. Private homes too began to feature grand columns and pediments, a sign of the growing prosperity of the American people. These styles, while reminiscent of the ancient world, were interpreted in a uniquely American way. They reflected the young nation's aspirations, its optimism, and its belief in the power of the people. They were a statement of the American dream, a dream of freedom, democracy, and prosperity. But as the country expanded westward, a uniquely American style began to emerge. The neoclassical and Greek revival styles were just the beginning of a rich and diverse architectural history, a history that is as varied and dynamic as the American people themselves. The vast American landscape called for a new kind of architectural language. As the country expanded, so too did its architectural needs. Enter American vernacular architecture, a style that was born out of necessity, practicality, and the use of local materials. It was during this period that we saw the rise of log cabins, adobe houses, and clapboard cottages, each reflecting the unique characteristics of their respective regions. These humble dwellings were not just homes, they were also a testament to the resourcefulness and resilience of the early settlers. Yet, while the vernacular was taking root on the ground, another architectural revolution was reaching for the skies. The late 19th century saw the birth of the skyscraper, a distinctly American invention that was a game changer in more ways than one. the advent of the skyscraper was largely influenced by two significant advancements: the development of the elevator and the introduction of steel frame construction. These technological breakthroughs allowed buildings to soar to unprecedented heights, transforming city skylines and the way we think about urban space. Chicago, with its flat, expansive landscape, was the perfect breeding ground for these towering structures. The city's Great Fire of 1871, while devastating, provided an opportunity to rebuild from the ground up. Architects like Louis Sullivan and Daniel Burnham seized this chance to redefine the city's skyline, creating structures that were not just taller but also more functional and aesthetically pleasing. The skyscraper was more than just a marvel of engineering. It was a symbol of America's industrial prowess and relentless ambition. These vertical cities within cities reflected the country's rapid economic growth and the spirit of the age, a spirit of innovation, progress, and unbounded possibility. As we moved into the 20th century, these architectural innovations continued to shape and define the American landscape. But they were just the beginning. The 20th century, however, brought a shift in American architecture that would change the landscape forever. The 20th century ushered in a new era of experimentation and innovation in American architecture. As we journeyed into the 20th century, modernism became the dominant architectural philosophy, championed by masters like Frank Lloyd Wright and Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Modernism, with its emphasis on form following function, stripped architecture of unnecessary ornamentation and celebrated the use of new materials like steel and glass. Wright's Falling Water and Mies' Seagram building are iconic examples of this period, embodying the ethos of modernism where simplicity and clarity of form reigned supreme. Yet, as the century wore on, architects began to challenge the rigidity of modernism, giving birth to postmodernism. Postmodern architects like Robert Venturi and Michael Graves rejected the stark minimalism of modernism, reintroducing color, ornamentation, and historical references to their work. Venturi's Vanna Venturi House and Graves' Portland building provide a stark contrast to the austere aesthetic of modernism, with their playful, eclectic designs that blend traditional and contemporary elements. As we approach the end of the century, deconstructivism emerged as a radical departure from both modernism and postmodernism. Architects like Frank Gehry and Daniel Libeskind began to create buildings that seemed to defy gravity and traditional notions of form and structure. Gehry's Guggenheim Museum Bilbao and Libeskind's Jewish Museum Berlin are renowned examples of this style, with their fragmented forms and unconventional use of materials. In the wake of deconstructivism, we've seen the emergence of sustainability and digital technology as key drivers of architectural innovation. Today's architects are leveraging these tools to create buildings that are not only aesthetically striking but also environmentally conscious and technologically advanced. American architecture continues to evolve, pushing the boundaries of design and construction. As we look to the future, we can only imagine the new forms and styles that will emerge, continuing the rich tapestry of American architectural history. So, we have journeyed through centuries of architectural evolution. We started with the humble beginnings of American architecture, where the first settlers expressed their resourcefulness and pragmatism in their structures. Then, we saw the influence of European styles, such as the neoclassical and Greek revival, which brought grandeur and elegance to the American landscape. As we moved forward, we witnessed the rise of uniquely American styles. The American vernacular, with its regional nuances and practicality, spoke volumes about the country's diversity. And who could forget the awe-inspiring skyscrapers, the steel giants that transformed not just the skyline, but also the way we perceive space and function. Finally, we delved into the modern architectural movements, where form began to follow function, and where architects started to experiment with materials, technologies and ideas, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Next time you look at a building, remember that it's not just a structure, but a piece of history, a testament to the evolution of American architecture.